Okay, back again. We've been talking about systems that, just systems. We haven't really talked about systems that are interconnected very much. We've a little bit, but not a whole lot. We've tended to think about them as single systems. The idea of this part of the semester is to step up a level in some sense and think about how different systems might be connected to each other and what happens when you connect those systems to each other. Two things are important as we start to think about different kinds of systems and different sizes of systems. And those two things are hierarchy and scale. When I wrote the syllabus, just kind of rushing along, I thought, I'll do a lecture on hierarchy and I'll do a lecture on scale. Well, as time passes and one thinks about these things, the distinction between hierarchy and scale becomes a little bit murkier. So, one of the things I've done is I've assigned a paper by Tim Allen, who was going to actually write about, not today, maybe this morning or if we'd met on Thursday, next Thursday, Tim was going to come and talk to us. Tim is not going to join us for obvious reasons, but also because Tim's health is not as good as one might hope. He's not a COVID patient. He's an older guy. I guess that kind of gets at scale a little bit. But Tim literally wrote the book on a lot of this stuff. So I've assigned a paper by Tim Allen. I think it's called "The Landscape Level is Dead and We Should Take It Off the Respirator" or something like that. Something maybe a little more timely than one might hope. Or not timely or something. What's the point? The point is that in that paper, as hard as it is to read, and do struggle through it, and in the notes I've noted that you should pay particular attention to the models section, which is the easier section of the paper. The first sections are rather tricky, but plow through them. Tim makes the point that we can think about hierarchy as an organization, as having to do with organization, and scale as having to do with size. So, first, an example of hierarchy. And there'll be some figures. I'm going to try to put together a keynote that has a lot of these figures and some narration as well. Right. So, let's think of some hierarchies. So, there are people. And the hierarchies I'm going to talk about are ignoring power for right now. And I think maybe you'll catch on to that in a minute. Then there are, so there's people, and there's another people. And if I had time, I could draw 29 of these and put a circle around them and call them a class. If I'm being consistent here, I guess I would put my label on the outside. Then many of you, of course, are in more than one class. So there would be another class, and there'd be a bunch of people in it. And then, of course, there are many classes, some of which you are not in. And those make up the university. And then there's another university where there's actually two major universities where I used to work. And they have classes that have people in them. So this is a hierarchy. This is how universities are organized. Now, these things have size as well, but the important thing in this hierarchy is that when we talk about the educational function of a university, there is this sort of hierarchy. Right, so that's hierarchy, that's organization. Another kind of hierarchy, we'll do one more hierarchy, and then it gets a little bit more into, has some implications for power, and don't want to get too deep into, you can get into some pretty hairy, well, I don't know if it's hairy. There's a lot of social theory that can get into this power stuff. But another kind of hierarchy that we're all, well, maybe we're not all so familiar with, but universities have, in our case, we have a chancellor, spelled improperly, who has a provost, actually, I don't know, this is close enough, a VP for admin, a VP for facilities, say. Provost, again, this is actually a little more like, I'm more confident of this at a different university, but all universities have an organization something like this. Provost has a bunch of deans that reports to that person. So this is the Dean of Arts and Sciences. This would be the Dean of Engineering, the Dean of Design, etc. And then deans have chairs that report to them. So in my case, this is the Dean of the Nelson Institute. I'm actually down another layer from here. Actually, I'm down 2 more layers from here. Oh no. Oh, very bad, very bad. In fact, at this university, there's the Dean of the Nelson Institute. Sorry, Paul. There's a chair, and then there's Lewis. You get the idea. Let's see, I'm not as familiar with the design school. Arts and Sciences would have, getting my, English, Arts and Sciences, Physics, Math, etc. These would be chairs again. All right, that's enough. Beat this horse thoroughly. So that's another way that hierarchies can be represented. Power is a little bit more. This one has more power involved in it. But also, this person is responsible for the entire university. This person is responsible for the academic, intellectual part of the university. These people are responsible for subsets of that, and so on. All right, so hierarchies have to do with organization. Scale. Oh, I shouldn't have erased that. You'll note that in many of these I have not really thought all the way through on my pedagogical presentations. But, let's go back. So the chancellor, how many people do we have? We'll do it. Chancellor is responsible for the whole university. And the whole university has on the order of, and this is where we start getting into scale, 10 to the 4. people. I'm going to drop down 2 scales here so that I can make my point. So if we go down then to the dean level, deans are going to have on the order of 1,000 people. Big schools, Nelson Institute is much smaller than that. 10 to the 3, 10 to the 2 people. In this case, yeah, we'll just leave it at people. And then chairs have 10 to the 2, say, yeah, 10 to the 1. All right. Now, this is why it's important to keep organization separate from scale. Organizationally, this needn't be the case, but it is. So the chancellor is responsible for a much larger portion, dean, chairs, etc. The scale is the number of people. The organization is this. Important to keep those ideas separate. So hierarchy has to do with organization. Scale has to do with size. All right, I'm going to do one more scale thing and then this video will be too long. So maybe two more scale things. If you think about geologic time, which is what I've been trained to do, well, many years ago. Geologic time. Geologic time. Earth, and I'm going to show you lots of pictures of these things. Earth is it's on the order of 10 to a million is 6, billion is 9 years old. Life is a little trickier. The Archean, I'm going to get this wrong, but none of you are, is about to 10 to the 100 million is 10 to the 8. And this is a tricky one here, but that's all right. Dinosaurs, well, end of the dinosaurs, is about 10 to the 7. Humans, way down here, we're going to skip some things. Humans, if we're generous, 10 to the 4, 5. And so, exponentials, very, very long times, and different lengths of time. So that's temporal scale. And then spatial scale. Let's do spatial scales really quickly, and then we'll make another one. Spatial scale. I think of my personal space in the scale of meters. I'm going to use metric because that's so. But yeah, you all can do it. So personal space is on the order of 10 to the 0. meters. Where I live is on the order of 10 meters-ish. So, how far is it across the room? It's, well, from here to my window, it's about maybe 5 meters. I live in right now, an embarrassingly large house. So we'll say that my home is on the order of 10 to the 1 meters. Our social distancing is 6 feet. 6 feet, which is roughly 2 meters. So it's right in here. Home, community. A couple of kilometers. A kilometer is 1,000 meters. So let's just call it 10 to the 3. Earth, so I think you're getting this. Earth, a good scale for Earth, I use, let's call it 10,000 kilometers. 10,000 is 10, that's 1 0, plus 1,000 is 3 zeros. So that's 10 to the 4. Is this? No, that's too big. Kilometer. A kilometer is, it's 10 to the 3, 10,000 kilometers is 10 to the... Yeah, it's probably a little bigger than that. 10 to the 5 maybe is a good number to use here. Because the radius is 6,000 kilometers, so you double that, that's 12,000 kilometers, and then you have to go around the thing. Anyway, so spatial scales, same thing. Stay tuned for a very exciting picture book on these topics as well. If you have questions as we go along, I'll try. I need to remember to open up a question discussion page where I can address some of those. All right, tune in. It's not really same bat time, same bat channel, but kind of. All right, see ya.